English translation, 452nd contact. Saturday, 7th July 2007, 15:11 hours.
Hello, dear friend. There you are already. I have just conversed with Mariann and said to her that I expect you, whereupon I then came here immediately. Nice to see you.
Edward, my friend, with pleasure I also bid you my greeting. Also I shall give you greetings from my daughters as well as from Ikarina and all others.
I thank you for this honor and reply to all my dear greeters with best wishes.
It is also an honor for me to deliver your words.
May I start at once with matters which occupy me?
That really is unquestionable.
Thanks. Firstly, I would like to question you regarding the deportees, the Giza twerps, and the Pegasus refugees. In the 81st contact on the 4th of September 1977, Quetzal said the following.
It is a work of the Giza intelligences in cooperation with the refugees from the Pegasus area. Namely, these were located by the group in Brazil about 6 weeks ago and drew attention to these, whereupon a communication took place between them. The merger with the Giza intelligences was then only a question of time. Very well orientated about the events in your center and in detail about the group members, they also knew of the growing existence of the actual value of the Sohar Center. This, however, the actual value, means ultimate danger for them, because if it is perfected and if it is in operation, then they have finally lost. This is exactly what they want to prevent, which is why every unobtrusive way to destruction will suit them. So they made the knowledge of the Pegasus refugees usable for themselves, and so also their equipment. An oscillation vibrator, working on a microwave basis, suited them very much to cause damage to the real value of the arising Sohar Center and possibly destroy it.
There to now the question, at that time it happened, that the Pegasus refugees attempted to cause severe damage to us in the center. How does it now make sense? However, their appearance on the Earth thus, since you have recently said anyway, that through your clarifications you have determined that during the last 300 years there have been no other Earth foreigners other than those which you mentioned to me. However, what was it then with the Syrians and Ashtar Sharan and consorts?
We were only later able to clarify the facts about the Pegasus refugees, when the whole story about the Giza intelligences came to light. The refugees belonged to a splinter group of the Giza intelligences, who lived in the space-time displaced region of the Pegasus constellation, and who had entered an alliance with the faction living on the Earth. Therefore, they were counted as one of the Giza intelligences, and consequently were not described as special foreigners. Therefore, also today we do not refer to these as special foreigners, which also applies to the Syrian fanatics and the faction of Ashtar Sharan, who for a very long time tried to cause mischief on the Earth again and again, and also were in alliance with the Giza intelligences. All factions of the Giza intelligences consisted of escaped criminals, delinquents and power addicts who practically in every connection with the Giza intelligences were willing helpers with reference to their machinations and acted according to their plans. However, we first received definite knowledge with respect to all of these connections of the Giza intelligences and all of their factions when we could finally establish contact with the scientists of the Syrians, whereby also the small fanatical group who were fundamentally responsible for the murder attempts on you could then be eliminated by the Syrian powers. Then it was also this small fanatical group with few members who reported in detail about all of the connections before they were sent into exile.
So then the Syrians therefore were active on the Earth for a long time. It is to be probably assumed, however, that they were not allies of the Giza intelligences from the beginning. while however the Giza twerps and the Pegasus refugees apparently belonged together already from the beginning. But why were they then refugees?
They had to escape, because they also caused mischief on the world where they lived and were pursued by security forces of their home world. Yet it was, however, some other Earth-foreign fraternized factions who were part of the Giza intelligences who were in contact with these and had their bases with them. We do not consider these also one of the Earth foreigners, of course, that I mentioned to you. Still, you are mistaken respecting the Syrian men in black, because these also formed links with the Giza intelligences from the beginning, also like the faction of Ashtar Sharan. The Giza intelligences controlled all approaches to the earthly airspace for millennia, and forced all those who they could use for themselves into the alliance through despotism and a forcible change of power of judgment and attitude. Since, however, you have never asked, and apparently were also not therein interested regarding these connections, we also have never spoken about it.
I understand. A brainwashing that comes about by a forcible change of the power of judgment and attitude of the human being. Through strong psychic and physical pressure, in which also drugs and electromagnetic, electric, and mechanical torture are often applied.
This corresponds to the meaning of my words.
Then that now is finally clear. The connections with the Giza honchos and other extraterrestrials are therefore much trickier and more extensive, as you told me. But even so, I also have never asked about it. Consequently, you also have told me nothing about the details. Then, however, I have a problem again, and in fact with the extraterrestrial aircraft that the Brazilian group had, from which I was zapped in the year 1976 in Winkelried near Wetzikon. You told me at that time, which unfortunately was not recorded in any contact report, that it concerned a beam ship, which indeed was piloted by people from a distant galaxy, and in fact with poison gas breathers or such. That they, however, were members of your Federation, if I am not mistaken. With the 65th contact on the 23rd of October 1976, you said the following.
Further also, I was able to clarify the events in the Winkelried near Wetzikon, near your domicile, so in addition also the existence of the tracks of a beam ship, which was not from one of our beam ships. With the tracks discovered by you, it concerns a ship of the Brazilian private interest group, who had sent out a command for the most exact probe of your circumstances. In accordance with my investigations, it was about 5 people who checked everything very accurately. The ship does not even represent a product of the power group itself, but is a stolen good. It was stolen from a crew from a distant galaxy who landed in Brazil years ago, who had to make a forced landing because of some damage. The interstellar drive of the ship was completely destroyed and cannot be repaired again, at least not by the technicians of this power group. Only the planetary anti-gravity drive is fully functional, which is sufficient for planetary flights. However, you saw the same ship weeks later in the Winkelried, where you, on your very irrational search for this, for you, mysterious object, also discovered this, which put you very much in danger. 2 men were in the terrain out there and observed your arrival, which was an easy game for them, because at the time they observed you constantly. In the desire to kill you, they prepared everything and steered you to the place of the planned event. It was your luck that you drove in your vehicle with caution and without lights on that dark night, because it was only through this that you were not exactly recognizable in the darkness that the shot from the gun missed you. Unfortunately, you are mistaken. Dear friend, because the strangers were not members of our Federation, but they belonged to another group of the Giza intelligences, and were stationed also with these, whereby they had to make an emergency landing in Brazil at that time and were captured by the Brazilian group. Actually, they were poison gas breathers who all died when their respiration equipment failed. They could not leave the Earth anymore because their interstellar drive was completely destroyed, which was a work of the Giza intelligences, as we learned through the members of the Syrian group. The reason for the destruction of the drive was so that they could not flee, because the Giza intelligences had a change in fundamental attitude.
And the Giza twerps did not undertake anything. As the ship had to make an emergency landing in Brazil, and the respiration equipment failed, so also nothing, since the old Nazis of the Brazilian group captured the ship.
Their nature and behavior was that they simply gave up lost aircraft, as also they were not concerned about those who were missing, etc. either. Furthermore, they were on close terms with the Brazilian group, which, however, that already for a long time does not exist anymore because every one of the faction has died by now because of aging and illness.
All members of this group were former officers of the German Empire who escaped from Germany to Brazil. They were mainly leading lights and henchmen of the Nazi Empire, and therefore were escaped war criminals.
This was actually the case.
Good then, I have this article here that you necessarily should read. It is from B. Indiku, whereby I do not want to give his name officially, in fact for security reasons for him. You know, there in Arabia, where he lives, it could become very dangerous for him. If somebody found out that he is the originator of the discovery and the writer of the article, because the whole thing could create enormous disorder in the Islamic world.
You make me curious, therefore I will immediately read the article. Thanks, Ptah reads, whereat his facial expression changes in astonishment. Annotation, Billy. B speaks both Arabic and English and also German. That really is very interesting, because it should be encountered only in about 3 years. I did not know either that it would be B. But since he has now found out the facts, it is also urgently necessary that his discovered knowledge is spread as fast as possible worldwide.
Who is the person named the Mahdi Ahmadi mentioned in Islam?
The term Mahdi is a title meaning the guided, directed one, but is also a common name in the Arabic world. This title has been used in many of Prophet Muhammad's sayings hadith, referring to a messianic figure within Islam who will bring peace, justice and honesty, etc. Like many ideas and theories in Islam, there are usually differences, or at least slight differences, that exist between the various sects. However, the majority of Muslims, the Sunni, agree on the level that there is a person who will be appearing on earth before the end of days to bring a positive change. Although in the sayings of the Prophet, these changes are mostly related to positive changes in the Islam's points of view. On the other hand, the Shia have a different view. If we take the highest percentage of Shia, which are known as Imamates or the Twelvers, they claim that this person was Muhammad al-Mahdi, also known as Muhammad ibn Hassan ibn Ali, born in 868, and was the 12th Imam. But the focus of this article will be on the Sunnis' view of this person. Since we have been given information from our Playaran friends that Islam was falsified even before the death of the Prophet Muhammad, a lot of the Prophet's sayings, hadith, are rather unreliable. Even if scientifically viewed, there are not many ways to truly authenticate any of the hadith, but if they are read taking into consideration the information given to us by Billy, it seems that a few hadith may have retained their original form, and therefore correspond to information given to us by the Playaran or Billy. Despite modern popularity, the Mahdi Mehdi is not mentioned in the Quran. Therefore, in most articles and books where this person is mentioned or dealt with, only the hadith are mentioned as a reference, which is also the case with this article. Here are a few examples Ahmad ibn Hanbal is quoted as saying. The Prophet Muhammad said,
Allah will bring out from concealment Al-Mahdi from my lineage, and just before the day of judgment, even if only one day were to remain in the life of the world, and he will spread on this earth justice and equity, and will eradicate tyranny and oppression.
Tirmidhi, Hadrat Ali is quoted as saying, the Prophet Muhammad said,
Even if only a day remains for Qiyamah means the end of days to come, yet Allah will surely send a man from my lineage who will fill this world with such justice and fairness, just as it initially was filled with oppression.
Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Hadrat Abdullah bin Mas'ud is quoted as saying, the Prophet Muhammad said,
This world will not come to an end until one man referring to Mahdi from my progeny does not rule over the Arabs, and his name will be the same as my name.
Although some people have claimed that there are clear signs of his coming mentioned in various other hadith, a closer examination of the prophecy's predictions shows that they are not really accurate, since a lot of the dates do not exactly correspond to the occurrences of the events. Or the prophecy's predictions were so general that it could have been an easy guess that something like that would happen in the future. Therefore, it is not worthwhile including them in this article. Among the Islamic scholars, there is much debate as to whether this person does exist or will actually ever exist, since the hadith might not be authentic and might not correspond to the inspired divine words of the Prophet Muhammad. As with Christianity and the resurrection of Jesus, Islam sees the Mahdi similarly, not as the resurrection of the Prophet Muhammad, but as a messianic figure that will bring the people back to the light of Islam, and so on and so forth. There have been a few humans in the past who have claimed to be the Mahdi, as is the case with Christians, where a lot of people claimed to be Jesus. And now a short reminder of the early travels of Billy. In 1967, Billy and his now ex-wife, Calliope, continued their travels towards the Far East, namely to Karachi, West Pakistan. During their stay, they were both taught about Islam. Billy's reason to study Islam was because of his task to get to know the world religions and to learn them thoroughly. When somebody converts to Islam, he or she is usually given an Arabic name if he or she does not already have one, and so Billy was given the Muslim name Muhammad Abdullah and Calliope, his ex-wife, the name Aisha Abdullah. As we have seen in the original teachings of Emmanuel in the TJ, the Prophet of the New Time is mentioned. Did the Prophet Muhammad also mention the Prophet of the New Time in his teachings? Like Christianity, after many years of falsifications, it is hard to know for sure whether the Prophet Muhammad did speak of the Prophet of the New Time or if it was falsified, because mentioning the Prophet of the New Time would create a paradox to the well-known Islamic teaching where the Prophet Muhammad is considered to be the final prophet. Nevertheless, the name of the Prophet of Islam is known as Muhammad Abdullah, and therefore the Mahdi, as stated in one of the above hadith, would have the same name, that is to say, Muhammad Abdullah. Can it really be so? What are the chances that Billy was given the combination of those two names out of thousands of Arabic names? On one hand, we can imagine that the reason is that such a thing could have been set in motion a long time ago, and is a result of a direction taken in the distant past whereby the Prophet of the New Time would carry this name as well. Because in most cases, this person would not have survived in Islam's writings for so long if the name was not an Arabic one. On the other hand, one can also claim that it was all a lie, and that Billy gave himself this name knowing what it might cause. As the person that gave him this name has not been interviewed and nobody has claimed to have given him this name, it cannot be verified for sure as proof of the genuineness of Billy's statements. See the photocopy of the corresponding certificate of 26th of June 1967, Karachi, West Pakistan, which is included in the German version of this article. What can be done is to try to analyze Billy's position and what could have prompted him to fabricate such a lie. Billy has never intentionally lied about anything. He might have told incorrect things in the past, but that was a result of being misinformed and was therefore not an intentional lie. But after all these years, no one has proved, nor has it been documented anywhere, that he had deliberately lied to deceive or cheat someone. And a very important point is that he has never claimed to be a prophet. But people around Billy have recognized him as a wise teacher, dedicating his whole life to teaching us human beings and never asking for anything in return. He has never shown any signs of wanting to promote himself over anyone, and from my personal experience, he is one of the humblest and kindest persons I have ever met. Please note that the views expressed in this article are neither of Billy nor that of Fei Gu. I take full responsibility for all the information written down in this article, and hope that it might give more light towards the case from a different perspective. And as a final note, since this is my first article, I would like to thank the creation and the Mariann for helping our development through Billy, and thank you, Billy, for not giving up on us. Since I was very young when I first heard about the Mehdi, I could only dream about the day when I could meet this person and hear what he has to say, because I knew already then that there was something wrong which needed some clarifications. About 2 years after finding out about Billy, I found out while reading the book Einführung in die Meditation that he had been given the name Muhammad Abdullah. My eyes filled with tears when I realized that I had actually found him in this lifetime. And since then, I have learned a lot from this wise person, and I hope I will be able to reflect the wisdom I have learned from him to the people that seek it, in the hope that one day his wisdom will bring true peace and freedom to the whole earth and the rest of the universe. Salome, B.A.M., Arabia, P.S. The author speaks German, English, and Arabic.
As you know, finding the truth regarding this point in time means that this must be spread fast.
That B has discovered it. I myself can only explain it such that the mission has already further thrived in its consequences, as we assumed until now, whereby the corresponding divine providence emerged.
That must be so, because otherwise the whole thing cannot be explained. If the right point in time were not reached, then he would not have found the truth. This only would have to have been the case in little more than 3 years in accordance with our knowledge.
Better earlier than too late. This contrasts with the words better late than never.
That is a word of truth.
Good. Then a question of predictions. Does something especially important still emerge as exceptional there?
At the last visit, I spoke of the droughts, about the heat and about great thunderstorms as well as of high waters and floods that have arisen worldwide or in the meantime have already arisen. While overall, however, there is nothing more exceptional with reference to the powerful climatic radical changes. And until the 14th of July, therefore my next visit, nothing else also arises regarding this and also nothing unusual in this respect. An exceptional situation can probably only be spoken of regarding the fundamental attitude of the Iranian President Ahmadinejad, who toys with the idea in the near future to again admit international inspectors regarding the nuclear facilities. An unusualness emerges in China, where because of the high waters, several billion rats overrun the country and will cause a huge plague. I may be able to tell you more during my next visit, but I will also have some important things to discuss with you that are not intended for the public. And for today, Edward, my friend, it is now time for me to go. If you therefore have no more questions or anything else we should discuss.
At the moment, I have nothing further.
Then I would like to express another wish, which refers to Guido's book, which you have in correction. It would be good if, after the last chapter, there was still another one, perhaps under a title like Letters from Various People with Respect to the Mission and Billy Edward Albert Meyer's Teachings. Thereto I suggest that you use letters which are addressed to you. Some are found published in bulletins.
We can do this. I will express your wish at one of the next correction evenings. Of course, I must then also ask Guido whether he approves of that, because it is his book which we review.
It would be very desirable and of usefulness if such a chapter was added. Then I now want to turn again to my tasks which I have to finish. Goodbye, dear friend, until the afternoon of the 14th of July.
Sahlomi Ptah. Please convey my kind greetings to everyone to whom I am personally connected. Take care, my friend.